So for this video about one of the most popular affordable work boot brands, I wanted to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly as we cut this boot in half and run it through our test. Anytime I get busy, the number one thing that always goes first out the window is my eating habits. And the way that I do this is I just get on the delivery app, and they may make it so sneaky because you have to order a certain amount of food to get a discount. And I always try to convince myself, I'll just order extra. I'll eat it tomorrow, or I'll eat it later. I'll have leftovers. I eat it all, every single time. And that's why I really like Factor, because they ship you fresh meals that are pre-portioned, and it takes all the time and all the mess out of prepping food, especially when you're busy. And the thing is, I like cooking. I like using my cast iron pans and everything, but I just don't always have the time for it. And Factor has a bunch of different meal options that people are looking for: keto, for low calorie, vegan, vegetarian, and you can order anywhere from 4 to 18 meals to be delivered a week. And the thing is, because they're not frozen, they taste really good. Frozen food's good, and they do their own thing, their own little magic to make them taste good, but it's just never gonna be a fresh, unfrozen meal delivered to your door. And because it's not frozen, it takes like 2 minutes in the microwave to heat them up, and you're good to go. And the nice thing is, you don't get tired of the same meal over and over and over, because they have a ton of different options, because it rotates every single week from 34 plus meal options and 36 plus add-ons like smoothies, keto shakes, and even desserts. And the thing is, it's not cheap by any means, but if I look at what I spend on delivery compared to a Factor meal, I spend way more on the deliveries. So get yourself some fresh, tasty meals by using a link, or go to go.factor75.com and use the code POGROSENOV50 for 50% off your first box. Click the link in the description or scan the QR code on your phone, and thanks again to Factor. So what is this boot? Well, the brand is Georgia Boot. The style is the GB00592 or the AMP LT Wedge Composite Waterproof Work Boot. They weigh 2 pounds, 3 ounces. They're made in China, and the way that Georgia positions this boot is the Georgia Boot AMP LT Mock Toe Boot contains an ergo-fit composite toe for added safety without compromising the comfort and durability. This 6-inch waterproof wedge features our incredibly tough and abrasion-resistant SPR leather, a heel stabilizing counter lock system, and a padded counter pocket for additional heel support. The boot interior features our removable AMP LT memory foam insole and Georgia waterproof system for all-day comfort. This boot meets ASTM all the standards. I'll just put them on screen because I don't want to read all that. So starting with the good, you got to start with the good. You can't start with the bad. What are the good things about this boot? Well, number one is it's a pretty good work boot leather, because this is about 2 millimeters thick. So usually I like to see like 2.5 millimeters for work boots, unless it's lined and they have all these layers. Then they usually drop it down to 2 millimeters. It's a heavily saturated leather. It has a lot of conditioning and oils worked into it, so it's gonna be a fairly maintenance-free leather, and it's gonna last a fairly long time. And we put the macro lens on it, plenty of the grain in there. It's clearly a buffed surface, so a waxed nubuck essentially. And we burned it to see if there's any plastic on top. No plastic. But what about this SPR special leather? What does it even mean? Well, it stands for Superior Performance Ranch Wear. And Georgia says it was developed for environments exposed to chemicals and barnyard acids frequently. And it's 2.5 times more abrasion resistant and 3 times stronger than normal leathers. So is that true? To see how acid resistant it is, they put a little dropper of acetone on there, and it seems like it performs a little bit better than regular leathers. But what about this 2.5 times more abrasion resistant and 3 times stronger? Well, we ran the puncture test, and it took 82 pounds, so right in the middle of the pack. We ran a quick abrasion test on the sander, and it seems like it performed about the same. So I don't know about this 3 times stronger than normal leathers. And I reached out to Georgia to get their opinion on it, and they sent me this chart that has their testing standards and their results. And so at least there is some data to back it up. Compared to our garage science, compared to their marketing science, where does it lie? I still think it's probably not 2.5 times as strong as most leathers. I think it might be under certain parameters, but clearly it's more chemical resistant than the other leathers we tested. Another aspect of this boot that people like is it's a waterproof boot. Like a lot of the other boots in this price range, the leather itself isn't waterproof, but it has a waterproof membrane on the inside. And to test and see if it's actually waterproof, we dunked it in a tank for 10 minutes, clearly kept all the water out. And the next thing I really like about this for a good attribute is this is a pretty wide composite toe. That's the one thing I've always hated about safety toe boots, is they're always too narrow and your pinky toe sitting on top of that steel toe underneath of it. And very few companies make a nice wide composite toe safety toe. But we can't do a safety toe boot without bringing out the Project Farm inspired, the railroad tying schmeatine. So we dropped it on this toe. 1 drop it was good, 2 drops it was good, 3 drops you might have squished your toes a little bit, and 4 drops your toes are gone. The next good attribute is this is a Goodyear welted construction. We can tell that by pulling the upper slightly away. We see the stitches on the inside. And people really love a Goodyear welt on a work boot, because instead of just glue holding your boot together, you have a bunch of stitching binding all those layers together with the glue as well. And that's why it's been the industry standard for like 200 years. Maybe the most unique aspect of this boot and what I might like most in the boot, and it's the dual density outsole. Because most of these dual density outsoles, they have just a thin skin on the bottom of it. And once that wears off, your outsole's done, or it can delaminate and start peeling off. But this has a nice 5.5 millimeter thick layer all the way through. But more importantly, at the toe and at the heel, it seems to be a solid block of rubber so that those really key fail points at the heel and the toe not only have redundant stitching around the toe, but you have as strong of an adhesion and as strong of a material for the outsole compound, keeping this outsole on. But what about the bad? Where's the bad in this boot? And I'm considering the bad more like personal taste bad, because good, bad, ugly. Bad is more just like, I don't like this. One thing I just don't like about any of these waterproof work boots is they're always fabric lined because they have to protect that waterproof membrane. I also just don't like when welts have a fake stitch on them. I get it looks more rugged and stuff, but they don't actually do anything. Once again, just personal taste, I just don't like rubber on my outside of my boots. I just like a clean leather boot. Slip sole between the outsole and that welt isn't a solid piece of rubber, it's a piece of blown rubber. So the benefit of that is it's gonna be a little bit more squishy, but it has that air infused, so it could be less durable. It's a guess though. It's the first time I've seen it. So now let's cut this thing in half and go over all the ugly aspects of this boot and see what's on the inside, see if they're hiding anything on the inside of here. So let's cut it in half. All right, we got it cut in half and obviously the toe is off. So let's see what's inside. And they weren't kidding about this squishy insole. This is so ridiculous. It's so wide. It's over 1/2 inch thick at the heel, and at the toe, it's thicker than most insoles at 0.3 inches thick. So what's on the inside of this? Well, it's very, very similar to the rest of the boots in this price range that are waterproof in the composite toes, because you've got that foam layer with a little backer underneath. You've got the fiberboard with a pour-on type foam under that. And then you can see that layer we talked about with the blown rubber slip sole, that fiberglass shank in there. And you can really see that heel locking pad there that I really like about this boot. And I like a lot that it's reinforced and stitched over top instead of just being implemented into the lining itself. It's never gonna be nearly as durable as leather for a counter cover on the inside, but at least it's slightly better. And now we can see the full picture of this outsole. You can see it is really beefy, where the strongest connection points and the highest wear points, it is just a thick slab of rubber. It's almost like a boot cup sole. So where's the ugly on this boot? Where's all the stuff that I don't like? Well, I don't like that BS marketing on the leather. Like, you know, you gotta market a product, but all those claims about 3 times or 2.5 times stronger and 3 times, you know, all that stuff. It's just leather, you know. It does definitely have some corrosion and some acid resistance, but the other claims don't seem to be true. The other ugly aspect is all these layers are fused together really well, because in some of these cheaper boots, they're all independently moving and it can wear the boot out fast. But this just has one layer that's not fused between that slip sole and that pour-on foam. It's not as big of a deal, but ideally you'd see all these layers fused. So is this boot worth it at the end of the day? I think it is. If you compare it to the rest of the mock toes that we've cut apart recently, it's right on par with the materials, the way it's built, the construction techniques, it's right on par. So how does this rank on our Mocktober board? Well, for this year's Mocktober board, I'll put it here, and for the overall board, I'll put it here. So let me know what you thought of this style of video where we go through the good, the bad, personal tastes, and the ugly. Thank you guys for everything you do. See ya. So